Hello, everybody, and welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live Thursday, the first show of 2025. John Schmeelk, Matt Citak with you. We're going to take a lot of your calls today, folks. We're going to start off the year with a lot of phone calls at 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. Sorry for starting a little bit tardy. I had to finish off a couple of the coordinator interviews outside, last one of the year for those guys as well of the season. So it was good to talk to Shane Bowen, Michael Gobriel, and Mike Kafka for the last time here in the 2024 season. Mr. Citak, Happy New Year, sir.
Happy New Year.
So you're still young. Did you do the party outside at the bar club thing for New Year's Eve?
I did not. While I might be younger than you, I am certainly would not consider myself too young. I'm 32 now.
That is true.
And when I stay out late drinking, I certainly feel it the next day or two after. So,
and New Year's Eve is generally amateur hour too. You don't want to be out on New Year's Eve.
And I live in the city, so it's a mess on New Year's Eve in the city. So the wife and I went out for dinner. We had a lovely dinner.
Where'd you
go? We went to this restaurant called Twin Tails in Columbus Circle.
Is that in the is that like in the mall building?
In the Time Warner building.
It's in the Time Warner building. Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
It's part of this like restaurant management group. They have a bunch of restaurants around the city. This was one of their newer ones, a Thai restaurant. My wife loves Thai food.
Okay,
My wife loves Thai food.
What'd you get?
I got this peanut chicken satay.
Ooh,
and then this
chicken satay is nice.
This steak. It was like chopped steak with I forgot what sauce, but it was delicious.
Yeah, we actually got a little Thai last night ourselves. I got this place. They have a special duck curry, which is excellent.
That sounds good.
I went with that. That's some leftovers. I'm going to have that tonight, actually, for the leftovers. All right, guys. So we talked about this briefly when Matt and I were with you last, Tuesday did we do a show together?
Monday
we did a show, whatever it was. And we kind of posited that we didn't think the Eagles were going to play anybody. And now we pretty much know that the Eagles aren't going to play anybody. Nick Sirianni coming out yesterday. Thankfully, he wasn't that coy about it. We expected there to be some coyness and for them to be like, hey, maybe we'll play some guys. No, they basically said we're going to rest our guys. So Saquon's not going to go for the record. That means no offensive line. That means no A.J. Brown. That means no Devonta Smith. You might have to play one of those offensive linemen just because it's a numbers game and somebody's going to have to be out there, whomever that might end up being. But they could probably do enough practice squad calls up to cover it. They'll have to be in uniform in terms of being backups. So I would expect none of those guys to play. Did they actually have like DNPs for the week for them already?
Yeah, so the first
give me an idea. Go ahead.
The first injury report came out yesterday. Of course, the Eagles had 22 players listed. Almost all of, I believe 18 of the 20 had rest as the reason.
So why don't you list those guys? Those guys are the probably ones that are not going to play.
So 10 players did not participate in practice at all yesterday, and they are Saquon Barkley, Mekhi Becton, who's been starting at guard for them, A.J. Brown, Landon Dickerson, their other guard, Jalen Hurts, he's actually still in concussion protocol. I think Sirianni said that yesterday. Tackle Lane Johnson, and then backup quarterback Kenny Pickett, Darius Slay, Devontae Smith, Josh Sweat, outside linebacker. So those 10 did not participate in practice at all, and everyone other than Jalen Hurts and Kenny Pickett had rest as the injury, so quote unquote, for why they did not participate in practice. Then they had 10 guys that were limited, 9 of which, again, rest. And that is linebacker Zach Bond, safety Reed Blankenship, defensive tackle Jalen Carter, corner Cooper DeJean, safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson, center Cam Jurgens, tackle Jordan Mailata, and cornerback Quinyon Mitchell. And then, and outside linebacker Nolan Smith. Will Shipley is one who is, I guess, also in concussion protocol. He was limited. And then on top of all those guys, Nakobe Dean was a full participant in practice. Bryce Huff, a full participant in practice. And Dallas Goedert, who's been on injured reserve, but they just designated to return to practice yesterday, was also a full participant in practice. So those 3 guys that were full participants, maybe we see them, especially Bryce Huff, Dallas Goedert. They're both coming back from injuries. I'm assuming the Eagles will want them to sort of get their footing underneath them heading into the playoffs, even if it's, just going in for a series or two. But yeah, of the 22 players I just listed, I want to say 18 of them are starters on one side of the ball or the other. I mean, the 2 quarterbacks, it's looking like we might see Tanner McKee
Yeah, I think that's
under
almost
center
a
for the
sure
Eagles,
thing.
'cause
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if you saw the report of what Kenny Pickett was dealing with last week.
Oh yeah, he got
The ribs
yeah,
injury
he got
and
nailed pretty good.
what he had to do. He apparently got whatever shots before the game and then during halftime. Like, he's continuing to try to fight through it. Sounds incredibly painful. I've fractured a rib once, and I'm not an NFL quarterback, and it hurt like crazy for like 6 weeks.
I'm happy I've never fractured a rib.
Yeah,
which
that
is,
was not a fun injury.
I'll avoid that.
But,
how,
yeah.
Can I ask how you fractured a rib? Skiing?
No, so I think we've actually discussed this. My fraternity in college had this 3-on-3.
Oh yeah, you did tell me that story. That's right. Yeah,
full
yeah.
contact, and I just got leveled and
That's
fractured.
you have told me that story. That's right. I
Yeah.
remember that.
So
now.
yeah, this is most of their offensive and defensive starters for the Eagles were either did not participate or limited participants. Chances are most of these guys are not gonna play at all.
Correct. And believe it or not, the Eagles have 11 offensive linemen on their active roster. So they have enough offensive linemen to go with
There you go.
one backup. So they should be fine there. They only have, based on what I'm looking at our lads, 5 wide receivers on their active roster. So they're going to probably have to elevate a third guy, and those 3 guys will probably play all the snaps. You mentioned Dallas Goedert. I imagine it'll be Grant Calcaterra and E.J. Jenkins at tight end. Defensively, they'll probably have to activate a defensive lineman. They have, if you're not going to play, they'll probably rush Jalen Carter. I imagine we'll probably see Jordan Davis and Milton Williams. Those guys,
I think
we'll probably see. Sweat, probably no, but I imagine we'll see some combination of Nolan Smith, Bryce Huff, and Jalix Hunt over the course of the game. I wonder if they played Bryce Huff to try to get him going a little bit. He's a guy that's been slow for them. Maybe try
That's
to,
what I was thinking.
try to get a little momentum there. I'm curious with the rookie defensive backs, Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. They're so important to them, but you always want to get rookies playing time if you can, so I'm curious to see how they handle those guys. But look, the Eagles can go about this and rest most of their starters here if they want. I imagine that's what they're going to do. The result of this game obviously doesn't matter at all for them. For the Giants, it doesn't matter in the standings at all either. But just like last week, they'll playing a bunch of young guys. They're going to go out there. They're going to try to put their best foot forward, and we'll see what the result is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
We'll see.
Yeah, so that game at 1 o'clock, obviously on Sunday. If you're in the area, by the way, and you want to come out and hang out, we are doing our radio pregame show again from Tommy's Tavern and Tap on Route 3 in Clifton, New Jersey, just down the road from the stadium. It'll be myself, Jonathan Casillas, and Phil Sims will be joining us for this pregame show. So come on down, say hi. I think we'll try to take some questions from the crowd, try to do some photos, some meet and greet, stuff like that. If you want to say what's up to JC and Phil, you certainly can. Come on down, say hi. We'll be starting at 11 o'clock up until kickoff at around 1. So come out and hang out with us if you have the time on Sunday morning before the Giants take on the Eagles down in Philadelphia. No other big news for the Giants really to cover.
Not for the Giants, but sort of big news for some other teams that I know obviously a lot of the attention is on the draft order and where the Giants might land in the draft order.
Yeah.
Right now, the Giants are tied with 3 other teams at 3-13. As we discussed Monday, Cleveland Browns are playing the Ravens, who need to win the division. So I don't think I'm going out on a limb to say almost certainly you can chalk that up as a loss for the Browns. But the other 2 teams that the Giants are currently tied with, the Tennessee Titans and the New England Patriots, believe it or not, both go into Week 18. I think they're both favored, or if not favored, it is almost like a pick-em between them
opponents
and
are
the teams they're playing,
everyone.
because
Right.
Tennessee is playing the Texans, who have nothing to play for. They're locked into the number 4 seed, and the Patriots are playing the Bills, who are locked into the number 2 seed. Sean McDermott has already said that while Josh Allen will start, because Josh Allen wants to continue his start streak, he's going to be in for a very, very short period of time, were the words that McDermott used. I wouldn't be surprised if that is literally like a snap or 2.
A handoff and you're out.
Exactly. So he gets the start and then he's out. And on the other sideline for the New England, it sounds like Drake May is in fact going to start. There was a little bit of uncertainty because he's been dealing, he was tested for a concussion last week, cleared, came back to the game, but there was a little bit of uncertainty whether or not he would play. It sounds like he's going to start, or actually their offensive coordinator said today that Drake May will start the game. And in Tennessee, they have Mason Rudolph and Will Levis, both of whom are apparently going to get some playing time on Sunday. But both of those coaching staffs, the New England and Tennessee, have already said that they're going out there trying to win a game. And, New England currently has the number 1 seed. If they lose, or the number 1 pick, if they lose, they are locked into the number 1 pick. But they're going out there trying to win a football game on Sunday, just like we saw the Giants do this past Sunday.
No question about it. All right, so Tankathon actually has an interesting feature where you can look at the strength of schedule tiebreakers and rooting interest for individual teams. So I brought up Giants, Browns. They're the 2 teams that are closest. It's going to be tough, I think, for the other ones to move enough for that to make a difference. But the Giants and Browns are only separated by .011 in terms of winning percentage. So these are the games that will impact that strength of schedule this week and who you should be rooting for if you're the Giants. So New Orleans is playing Tampa Bay. You want to root for the Saints in that game.
I guess Cleveland must have also lost to Tampa Bay then, because obviously Giants lost to both of those teams.
Giants play both those teams, so my guess is that means probably that the Browns played the Saints this year. So you would want the Saints to win, so their strength of schedule goes up. Jacksonville and Indianapolis, that has double weight, because the Giants played Indianapolis, and I believe the Browns played Jacksonville that year. So that's an important game to watch. You want to root for the Jaguars in that game against the Colts. So that's a big one for tiebreaker purposes there. Dolphins and Jets. You want to root for the Dolphins in that game. That probably tells me that the Browns played the Jets this year, I believe, correct? If I'm not mistaken. Yes, so you want to root for the Jets to lose that game, for the Dolphins to win. You got Rams, Seahawks. You want the Rams to win that game because the Giants played Seattle, so you want their record to be as bad as possible. And then you have the Lions and the Vikings, and once again, the Giants played the Vikings, so you're going to want the Lions to win that game. And that's how you can help assist the Giants in their Giants-Brown potential tiebreaker if they do get tied in terms of strength of schedule. So good times there. I'm not going to go through the other teams because, again, there's enough distance separating strength of schedule. Like the Jaguars are .075 and the Panthers are .06 or .055 away from the Giants, and I just don't think you're going to make up that level of winning percentage opportunity in the final week. For the teams with 4 losses, the Raiders are close, the Bears are close. So those are 2 other teams where the Giants finished tied with them. The tiebreaker can certainly shift in the final week in terms of who's going to finish in front of them. I'm not going to go through all of those, but there are 5 teams with 4 losses. You have the Jaguars with wins. 4 wins. I'm sorry. You have the Jaguars, the Panthers, the Jets, the Raiders, and the Bears. So those are teams that you want to keep an eye on here in terms of tiebreakers for those teams.
So the absolute lowest the Giants could drop would be the 9th pick.
That is correct.
So if they win and everything falls into place against the Giants, they will be picking 9th. But a lot can happen on Sunday.
Yes, it can. All right, let's go to the phones at 201-939-4513. Wilson's in Roxbury. He'll lead us off today. So, Wilson, that not calling into the show lasted about 2 days?
He said not for the rest of this year. It is 2025. It's a new year.
When he said year, he meant season.
Before that, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, Wilson.
Hopefully your family will be a better year. I know it's just football, but hopefully we'll have some fun this year. But listen, I'll kidding aside, Happy New Year to you guys. Johnny, listen, I don't want to call. But this team, it's like I can't help myself. Because I'm going to tell you something.
That's what it means to be a fan, Wilson.
Have you ever had what?
I said that's what it means to be a fan. You just can't help yourself, I guess.
I know. But listen, have you ever had in life, right, like in high school or through work or a client, somebody that you wanted to like, I'm going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. But it gets to a point, right, that this guy is so – you just can't help. It's very hard for you to like him. You try. Say, I can't do this. This guy is unlikable. This is what this head coach that we have is. Not only is he the worst head coach in the NFL because he has won 9 games in 2 years, but he's extremely unlikable.
Well, that's not true, Wilson. That is absolutely no. Wilson, stop. Listen to me. Stop. You have no idea if Brian Daboll is unlikable. You're judging that off of press conferences.
But what I see on the TV, Johnny.
Yes, but Wilson, that's a veneer and a show he puts on. He's the exact opposite person talking to him off camera, him interacting with the players in the locker room. He's a completely different person. The same way Bill Belichick is a completely different person than when he's at a press conference, than when he's doing other things. You cannot judge a person's likability based on what he says in a press conference.
Okay, all I'm saying, Johnny, is because because what I hear. I mean, so he's the only. I guess the other 31 coaches, right, in the NFL, they want bad quarterback play. They want to turn the ball over. He's the only one that, hey, listen, man, if the quarterback plays good, I'm the best head coach. That's what I'm talking about, Johnny.
No, that's the point he's making. Every coach needs to protect the ball and needs good quarterback play to win football games.
Right. Okay.
That's the
Johnny,
point.
So all I'm saying is this, Johnny.
Show me the teams, Wilson. Time out. Wilson, time out. Show me the teams that turn the ball all over time and have bad quarterback play and have a good record this year.
Well, Johnny, but that's the Johnny, but that's the point. But the other you don't hear the other coaches say that he threw basically Daniel Jones under the bus, man. He just threw because I know he says, "Oh, it's on me." Yeah, well, we're going to get that. He doesn't mean it, Johnny. Listen, I don't want to say that because I don't want to put you guys in the bus. But all I'm going to say is this. I hope that John Mara doesn't let this Brian Dable apologist sway him on because one lousy game. Because I've been a supporter of John Mara.
And Wilson, that won't happen. Wilson, one win against the Colts is not going to sway ownership one way or the
Johnny.
other.
Johnny, I hope so because listen. You know what? The only thing that John Mara can sell season ticket holders. You know what it is, Johnny? It's the unknown. It's that. Well, listen. We might, if we get maybe a whole new regiment, we might hit it out of the park. Because I tell you something right now, Johnny. If they run it again, the same thing. There's going to be nothing to look forward to, Johnny. That's what. Listen, and I'm not alone here. There's a lot of people that think the same way, Johnny.
Wilson, Wilson.
I know where this is going, Johnny. I can see it in the media and everything. Well, John Mara he's thinking about bringing. How can you bring somebody back that has won 9 games in 2 years?
Wilson, how can
you sell that to the fans, Johnny?
He also won 9 games his first season.
Here's the bottom line, Wilson, okay? And appreciate the call. I appreciate your perspective. And look, based on the results, to your point, whatever decision John Mara makes after the season, it's going to be what it's going to be, right? And Steve Tisch and the Giants ownership, whatever decision they make, they're going to make. But you do not make this decision based on what you can sell the fan base. You cannot make decisions based on what the fan base wants you to do. Because that's how you have a bad organization. That's how you fire your head coach in week 4 or 5 because you want to build a spark and then you win like 1 game the rest of the year. We've seen that in the league this year. Okay?
Not too far away.
No. So, again, they might end up making the decision you want them to make based on the results you described. So be it. But you don't make the decision based on the fact, well, this is what the fans want me to do. And that might be frustrating for some fans to hear, but that's not how good organizations function. The only thing that should dictate that decision is ownership coming together and deciding what gives this organization the best chance to succeed long term. The answer to that question dictates your decision that you're referencing. That should be the only question that should be asked when you have that discussion, because that's the important question. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And I don't think, if everyone returns, I don't think that would lead to, I guess, quote unquote, panic decisions. I've seen a lot of people, especially this week, on Twitter speculate, if everyone's brought back, it's going to lead to, them panicking and, trading everything up for a quarterback or, whatever it is.
Well, you shouldn't operate that way either. Correct.
And I could end up being wrong, but I don't see that as being the case. This past draft, we saw an opportunity where the front office could have, quote unquote, forced a quarterback pick, someone that they didn't fully, believe in or believe that could fit in their system, and they didn't do it.
Or simply just worthy of being picked 6th over the other guys on the board.
Yes, exactly. There were 3 quarterbacks that were taken after that were there for the taking for the Giants, and they decided Malik Neighbors is our guy. And quite frankly, looking how Malik has done this season, it's hard to argue that was wrong. And that's nothing against those quarterbacks, because obviously Bo Nix has had a good season in Denver, but as John and I have spoken about many, many times, Bo Nix was like the perfect quarterback prototype to place in a Sean Payton system. I don't know if Bo Nix is going to have nearly as much success playing for almost any other coach right now. I think that was just a perfect match.
And again, it's just 1 year too.
And it's just 1 year. And then, you haven't seen J.J. McCarthy at all. And Michael Penix has only played 2 games and is, shown some flashes and looked pretty good, but I'm not ready to make a call on him one way or the other after 2 games. So point being, did not force, a pick that they didn't fully believe in. And I feel like that will be the case again this offseason. If, their front office is back and the coaching staff is back, they're going to do, as John just said, what they think is best for the future of this organization. I truly believe that. I guess we'll see what happens.
Let's go to Aiden in New Jersey. He's up next. Hey, Aiden.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, Aiden.
All right. First, I'm not sure you guys remember this, but I called back week 1, made some predictions. And one of them was that Malik Neighbors was going to break the Giants' rookie reception record. And a couple weeks ago, he did that. So based on all the lows so far this year, I think that's pretty good.
Congratulations.
Yep. And there's actually another record prediction I made that has a chance this week. 165 yards from Neighbors, and he ties Odell's rookie receiving record.
That's a long way to go. The Eagles are resting everybody, so you never know.
And then, getting to my point, I want to say that...
well, Aiden, hold on a second. Wait, hold on. How about your other 2 predictions? Do you want to talk about those?
Oh, yeah. Oh, they were bad. You remember what they were? I'll remind you.
No, I have it in front of me because Pearson does a great job of doing the bold predictions, but you can please give them to the people.
Okay, so I said Tyler Nubin was going to get the Giants pick 6 record.
Yep, that was one.
And Daniel Jones was going to have a career high in passing touchdowns.
And you know what, Aiden, I actually liked your last one. I thought there was a real chance at that one, but clearly we were all wrong about that one, unfortunately.
I wonder, have you done, I forget if you've done in the off-season before where you go back on predictions?
Oh, we will. Yep, that will probably be a show at some point next week. A lot of times you wait too long, and then we kind of lose the luster and we lose track of it. But, Pierce, remind me, next week we got to do it on one of the shows, all right?
Yeah, I wonder how
got to hold each other accountable here.
Yes.
Right? I remember Big Ed said the Giants were going to start 14-0.
Yep, that is, in fact, his prediction is right underneath yours on Pearson's sheet here. So, yes, we do have that on the list.
All right. Okay, so now I'll get to my point. First, I want to talk about Neighbors and then more about, the rookie class. So, first, I want to say that, I'm just really happy with how Neighbors has been playing coming off, he didn't look the same coming off his injury, how he started. And then just on Sunday, he just totally looked explosive. And Matt, I really saw I saw it first, when you talked about how he looked a lot like Jamar Chase. That's what I really saw from him.
He did.
And I feel like he's just going to get better and better.
No, look, absolutely, Aiden, and appreciate the call. And I think Neighbors looked like the guy you thought you were getting in the draft. It was the combination of speed, a quickness, strength to break tackles, and then just pull away speed, where he looked like the best athlete on the field. And you see that from Jamar Chase a lot. Well, he'll catch a ball, he'll make a move. And, when you see Jamar Chase, and I thought it was the same for Neighbors, he doesn't look like he's moving that much faster than everybody else. But it's the combination of all those factors, the size, the quickness, the speed, the strength. You put all that together in the one package, it makes it really hard for other players to tackle that guy.
Yeah, I mean, the two of them, Neighbors and Jamar Chase, I agree. When Malik is running with the ball, you don't necessarily think that is breakaway, lookout speed, but then all of a sudden he's 15 yards away from the nearest defender.
Right, you watch Xavier Worthy run, you're dude, that guy's moving. It doesn't, but
it kind of sneaks up on you.
It does a little bit, 100%.
But yeah, and again, I think I I believe I said this on Monday, but to me, the most impressive thing, throughout the season, we've seen Malik make some very impressive catches, some acrobatic, get the feet down, contort his body in the air. Like the touchdown catch against Cleveland back in week 3 where he contorted his whole body in the air to catch it in the back of the end zone. Very impressive. But the thing that stood out to me the most against the Colts was the yards after the catch. We spoke about it so much leading into the season, but quite frankly, we really didn't see it that much for most of the season. And I know that was a big talking point by, a lot of media members for a while that, we weren't seeing the yak from Malik Nabers that was sort of advertised.
Oh, well, I brought it up on the show many times.
But it was on full display against the Colts.
Yep.
Over 100 of his, I think it was 103 or 105 of his 171 yards came after the catch.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw him just get the ball in his hands. And this reminded me of early Odell Beckham, where you just get the ball into his hands in space and just let him go to work. Just let him outrun everyone, break a couple of tackles, and then take it 50-plus yards into the end zone. So that performance we saw on Sunday was it was the Malik Nabers that we saw in the first month of the season that kind of didn't see it for a little while there for a good chunk of the middle part of the season. But I feel like that was Malik sort of reminding everyone, like, hey, I'm still pretty good at football. Like, don't forget about me when you're talking about these top rookies around the league, because obviously all the talk has been around Brock Bowers and Brian Thomas Jr., and rightfully so. Those guys have been amazing. But Malik Nabers is right up there with those. I mean, those 3 would probably be, in my opinion, easily the top 3 non-quarterback rookies on the offensive side of the ball this season. I mean, of course, like guys like, Bucky Irving have looked good, Ladd McConkey, but
Joe Alt's been unbelievable. So Joe Alt's on that list.
I'm thinking more on just the
skill
playmakers.
Guys. Yeah, I got you.
But yeah, I mean.
So let me ask you this: if you redraft right now without the quarterbacks, who's your first overall pick? And I think it would be between
the quarterbacks,
Brian Thomas, Malik Nabers, Joe Alt, and Brock Bowers. Those would be the 4 guys I think in the mix.
Yeah.
Right?
So
I'm not missing
in
anyone,
the
am I?
draft, the first 3 picks were quarterbacks. So let's say we were just skipping to Arizona at 4.
No. If
they would pick Malik Nabers, in my opinion.
You think they would pick? Well, no. Just take it out. If you're starting a team from scratch and you're redoing the draft and you're taking the quarterbacks out of it, if you're the New England Patriots, right, who are basically starting the roster from scratch, right, and you're the first overall pick in this year's draft, take the quarterbacks out of it, who would you pick?
I mean,
I would go Joe Alt, I think.
I was deciding between Malik and
then
Joe
Malik
Alt,
would be
Joe
second
Alt has
for me.
been fantastic. And I mean, I know you just used the New England as like a random example, but they are in dire need of offensive line help. So
Yes.
That's why it made me think Alt. But
from scratch.
it would be between Malik Nabers and Joe Alt.
And the
sure.
only reason I'll pick Alt is because I feel like offensive tackle is harder to find than wide receiver. Not because I think Alt's a better player necessarily, though you can make the argument. He's been great too. But just because I think offensive tackle is a harder position to fill. There's more really good wide receivers than there are really good offensive tackles. But, like, position value out of it, it's very easy to argue Malik Nabers in that situation.
Yeah, no. What you just said, your argument, totally fair because, I mean, Ladd McConkey was a second-round pick. And, he has been fantastic this year as well. There are wide receivers that you could find on day 2 that can still step in and be day 1 starters. And a little tougher to find offensive tackle. Not impossible, but
position
a little
value,
tougher.
If you really take position value out of it, you could argue Bowers.
Yeah, I mean,
you could argue Bowers if you take position value out of it.
That Brock Bowers is going to be a special talent.
I feel good. Remember, on my final list, I did have him ahead of Dunze just by an inch. He was like my 9th or 8th player, or Dunze was my 9th or 7th and 8th or something like that. So I feel pretty good.
I go back to what Nick Saban said in the lead up to the draft. In that, I think Brian Dable said this at one point. That Coach Saban said this to him, that there were 2 players that were just absolute like matchup nightmares for his Alabama team last year. And it was Malik Nabers and Brock Bowers. And, I mean, we've seen it on full display pretty much since week 1 for both of those guys.
And unfortunately, for this year, besides Travis Hunter, who I think you could argue because he plays both ways can get put into that category of player, I know people have talked about, we've talked about the quarterback class a lot. I'm not even sure there's a position player that I've put into that kind of Nabers, Marvin Harrison Jr., Joe Alt level of, or Bowers even level of position players in this year's draft. Like I would pick all those guys, and I include Roman Dunze in that too, over any of the position players in this year's draft.
That's fair. I've started to. I don't want to fall into a whole draft conversation, but
we got plenty of time for that.
I know, but I've started to sort of shift my opinion on where, at least as of right now, I think the Giants might be best suited to go in this upcoming draft, and it'd probably be one of those position players. I mean, between the
they didn't have an opportunity to pick one of the quarterbacks.
Yeah,
so who knows?
But between Abdul Carter, who's looked fantastic for Penn State.
No, he's really good. And he'd be the guy that'd be closest to me, by the way. Closest for me to be.
Either of the two Michigan defenders between Mason Graham and Will Johnson. Banks, the Texas offensive tackle.
He's not that high for me.
And
a lot of people think
he would probably be on the lower of these guys that I'm mentioning, but it just
there are a lot of people that think he could be a guard, not a tackle.
I've seen that too.
Yeah.
And then the last one, which I agree that this guy would be, just in terms of the wide receivers, definitely below the top 3 receivers, and honestly now below Brian Thomas as well. But McMillan from Arizona.
I like Ted McMillan. I agree with that.
He is really good.
I like him too.
Just from a pure size standpoint, I feel like he would be like the perfect complement to Malik Neighbors on the opposite side of the field.
He's very Drake London-ish. You want to go back to the 2022 draft? He would be in the Drake London category for me.
And I feel like that's his player comp is Drake London. And,
right.
But having a 6'5",
that would be nice,
230-pound receiver on the opposite side of Malik Neighbors. Whew,
yeah, the guys out with the guys at the top of the non-quarterback list to me this year, from what I've seen so far, would probably be Abdul Carter. I think he's my favorite one. Then, in some order, Mason Graham, who I think is just a really good, solid, all-around player.
Yep.
Ted McMillan would be the other guy. And then those would be the 3 probably that I would have in that category. I would hesitate picking a corner that high just because it's such a volatile position, and I worry about that.
Will Johnson has looked good, though. I know he dealt with a lot of injuries this year, which forced him to miss some time.
Take a look at his ball production. Does not get his hands on a lot of passes.
He has 2 interceptions in the limited half the season that he did play.
I know, but look at pass breakups and stuff like that. It's a lot of off coverage, which makes me nervous. So he reminds me of Jeffrey Okudah a little bit, which makes me a little bit nervous.
Yeah,
but
that's not the best player comp.
But he's big and he's long. But again, Michigan just hasn't asked him to play press a lot, so it's hard. Again, some of these positions, based on what they're being asked to do in college, it's hard to make that evaluation. Everyone loves him to death. They really do. I even talked to some guys in the locker room that are familiar with Will Johnson. They love him. I think these are guys that play defensive back for the Giants. But I don't know. I have not been completely blown out like sure thing top 10 pick watching the tape so far this year. So just one man's opinion. Let's go to Jason in New Haven. He's up next. Hi, Jason.
Hey, what's up, fellas? Happy New Year.
You too, man.
Happy New Year.
Good. Thanks for taking my call.
Yep.
A few things. I don't know who the first caller was. I think his name is Wilson.
Yep.
I believe his name is.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's entitled to their opinions, but I don't think Dave's is going anywhere. To judge Dave's off of press conference with the media, to me, is just, I don't want to knock any of the fans, but to me, that's just silly to me. I mean, if people haven't noticed, to me, the New York media is just, and I'm not asking you guys for your opinion because I know you probably work with a lot of these women and men, but to me, the New York media is just, I don't know what word to use, but I could really do without them. I'll just leave it at that. So to me, Dave's is good for now. Now I know going into next year, he'll probably have a little more pressure on him, but people forget he was coach of the year 2 years ago. Like, he didn't forget how to coach and how to scheme plays, and the team is still playing hard for him. As you could see on Sunday, I know you guys were there. I mean, they looked awesome. Now the defense didn't look as good, but the offense was very, very respectable. We have 2 building blocks of Tracy and Neighbors. So to me, the cup isn't barren. We have over $50 million in cap space. We have a top 5, top 10 draft pick, which we don't want. We'd like to be picking in the low 20s, early 30s, but this is where we are as an organization. So to call for Dave to lose his job over media, how he interacts with the media, which I particularly like, how he shuts them down with some of these asinine questions. I think he's still a good coach, and I would hate to see him get fired, but I know this NFL is a results-driven business. But he didn't forget how to coach. So that's my response to, Mr. Wilson. I don't know his last name, but Wilson. So I'll just leave that as that is. Second of all, the more that I've played football in college and the more that I've watched football since a kid on up, to me, the draft is a total crapshoot when it comes to quarterbacks. Total. So for fans to be, certain fans in Twitterverse and social media and YouTube, to be asking an NFL team, the Giants, to tank games for quarterbacks they have no idea how they're going to pan out in the NFL, to me is just ridiculous. Because if I'm not mistaken, maybe you two can back me up, were Mahomes and Lamar picked number 1 and number 2 in the draft when they came out?
Nope.
They were not.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Mahomes was 10th, I
10th,
believe,
yep.
and Lamar was the last pick in the first round.
Oh, okay. And what was Tom Brady? What was he picked at again?
He was a 6th-round pick.
Jason, I want to pause you for a second. There are exceptions to every rule. Would you like to list me the last? Someone put this up on Twitter the other day. I think it was Dave Severson. I can bring it up here. Do you want me to list you the last set of players that were drafted between 11 and 32 in the NFL draft?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm sure you could let me know.
Oh no, I got it right here. I have the tweet. I have to read Dave's tweets. Here we go. Yep. These are the last 15 quarterbacks taken between picks 11 and 32. Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Jordan Love, Dwayne Haskins, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Paxton Lynch, Johnny Manziel, Teddy Bridgewater, E.J. Manuel, Brandon Weeden, Christian Ponder, Tim Tebow, Josh Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at an under 20% hit rate there.
Wait, Johnny Manziel?
Yeah, he was picked between 10 and 32.
Oh.
Okay. No, and John, you're right. I'm not disputing that there are bad quarterbacks taken in lower rounds, or don't have the upside, I should say, as maybe your top half of the draft quarterbacks. I will agree with that. But if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 years ago, there was a quarterback that came out of Clemson that everybody was stating was going to be the next big thing. Now, I will say he's still early in his career, but if I'm not mistaken, Trevor Lawrence hasn't been lining up the league. I mean,
no, but Jason, my point is, and people always like to make this argument, the facts are the higher you pick a quarterback, the better chance he has of succeeding. Those are the facts.
Absolutely. But it's not a guarantee, though.
There are no guarantees in life in anything. There are no guarantees in life.
That's my thing. Like, you hear fans, you hear social media, oh, why aren't we tanking for Shador or Cam Ward or whoever?
But at the same time, don't you want to increase the chance you have of succeeding as best as possible?
And John, I totally agree with that. I understand that you have a better chance of getting a quarterback that will bring you a championship to your organization. I'm not disputing that. But what I'm saying, and I'm not saying this to you, John, what I'm saying to other fans is, like, that's not a guarantee.
Of course.
That's going to get you. We've seen it time and time again. I can name you. How about Mariota? How about Jameis Winston?
Sure.
Like, there's no guarantee. So all I'm saying is,
Carson Wentz.
If we come out the draft and have the D tackle from Michigan, am I going to cry? No. If we come out and get Travis Hunter, am I going to be mad? Absolutely not.
No, Jason, look, you can find a really good player, absolutely right. But you still have to solve the quarterback position. Because until you solve that, the rest of it, and again, Wilson got mad at Brian Daboll for saying this, but it's true. If you don't get good quarterback play, what's going on in the rest of the roster, it can make a difference, but you're not going anywhere long term. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. And part of it, too, is where is the quarterback being drafted to? Now, last year, if we'd have took a quarterback and not took Neighbors and not took Theo, unfortunately, who got hurt and is out for the year, or took Tyler Tracy, what weapons would that, what system, what foundation would that quarterback have had? Now we're in a situation where, now I'm not saying we're a complete roster because we know we're not, and I'm full aware of that. But if you could have a quarterback that comes in and say, all right, we have Neighbors, we have Wandell, we have Theo, hopefully, who makes a recovery, we have Tracy, we have at least a semblance of a functional O-line. I'm not saying we're top 10, but to me, our O-line wasn't a disaster this year. Did we have some ups and downs? Absolutely. But we're trending up, in my opinion, as far as the O-line. And we have a defense now. Defense still needs some work, but we have a Kayvon. We have a Brian Burns. We have a Dexter. We have a Bobby. Now we can pick a quarterback, and it doesn't have to be forced. He can fit whatever Dable wants. So if we don't get Ward, who's to say Jackson Dart in 5 years ain't the best quarterback in the draft, or Jalen Milroe, or I don't know, Quinn Ewers. I'm just throwing names out. I don't know.
Yeah, I got
so
you.
all I'm saying is, not to you guys, all I'm saying to other fans, everybody that's claiming or wanting this team to tank, to me, is ridiculous. I was happy as heck on Sunday when we won. You know why? Because we haven't won in 9 weeks. So I'm always going to take a win over a draft pick, because the draft is a crapshoot, and we see this every year. When you guys do the draft analysis every year, we all have players we like. And 50% of the time, either me, John, whoever, a lot of those picks don't even pan out, or those players didn't work out, whether for whatever reason.
No, that's true.
So all I'm saying is this, fellas, thanks for taking my call. Happy New Year.
You too,
and
buddy.
I'm with you, John. One more thing. I'm a Knicks fan like you. Look what happened. It takes one player. Look what the Knicks were for 20 years. We were at the bottom of the barrel. We were the Browns of the NBA. And it took one man in Jalen Brunson to come and turn us around. Now, I know NFL and football is a different league, but we just need that one guy. I don't know who it is, but I feel it's coming. So everybody just needs to calm down. Let these guys do what they need to do. Claim one of everybody get fired every 2 years is just ridiculous. So, fellas, Happy New Year. Go Knicks on Friday night, and thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Jason.
the call. And you got to give some credit to Julius Randle, because he actually started the turnaround for the Knicks. He did. He's the first guy that got him to the playoffs, so you have to tip your cap there too.
Amari got you guys there a decade ago.
Yeah, but then there was a pretty large gap
That is true.
between that and then where this particular group. 201-939-4513. Let's go to Jeff in Maine. He's up next. Hi, Jeff.
Afternoon, gentlemen.
What's up?
Hey, Jeff.
So I agree with the last caller, and I take it a step further. I'm glad Philly's resting all their starters, because not only would I like to see the Giants win, I'd like to see the Giants destroy them. I can't stand friggin' Philly. I'd like to demoralize them so they lose in the playoffs, and hopefully it'll carry over to next year where they won't be as good. And the Giants will, feel better, and then that might carry over to next year. And as for the draft pick, okay, we'll be, and they are going to win the game, and we'll be, drafting 8th or 9th, and that's fine, because from what I sit, there's like 8 or 9 good players in the draft that are all about equal, and yeah, everyone's, losing their mind over having to get a quarterback, but a quarterback's got a lower floor than some of these position players, and so it could be risky, and you can get a quarterback in the second round or other places. And then one other point about quarterbacks, Drew Lock was actually the best quarterback in the NFL last week. And if he has a good game this week, too, I think he'll show himself to be a good bridge quarterback. So I'd rather see him in there next year rather than, Cousins or Garoppolo or something. So anyway, that's my take. When the Giants win, I'm happier. I'll have a great week, and I would like them to just utterly destroy him 50-0. So,
Thank you, Jeff.
That's all I got to say.
Appreciate the call. Yeah,
Thanks,
I just worry about, don't let one game skew your opinion of any player, too much. You got to see things consistently week to week.
For sure. I will say, to Jeff's point, the Giants have not won in Philadelphia since 2013. You better believe that they would like to break that streak on Sunday.
So now,
over a decade of not winning in one of your division rival stadiums, that gets to you. It gets to me. I want to see them beat the Eagles on Sunday.
Yeah, same here. So right now the Eagles are locked into the 2 seed, correct?
Yes.
So they're 13-3. They're locked into the 2 seed. So they're either going to get the Commanders or the Packers. Both of those teams are 11-5 heading into this week. So clearly that can swap. So I don't know what the tiebreaker situation between those two teams.
I believe I saw that if the Commanders win,
they control their own destiny,
they
right?
get the 5 seed, which means Green Bay would go to Philly.
No, they would get the 6 seed. It's either the Lions or Vikings.
Yeah,
will
sorry,
get
the
the
6
6
seed.
seed. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. So the Eagles will either, that's going to be, Eagles versus either the Commanders or the Packers. That's going to be a hell of a. Now, remember, the Commanders beat them with Jalen Hurts hurt. But still,
that's true.
That is going to be a heck of a first-round NFC wildcard game. That's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah. And also, honestly, the Buccaneers versus whoever loses on Sunday night. I mean, obviously,
Who do the Bucks have this week? Who are they playing?
someone in the NFC South, I believe.
Saints?
Panthers
Or Saints, right?
Saints, I think.
Yeah, they played
Just
the Panthers this week. They have the
Yeah,
Saints
yeah.
this week, yes.
So
So you gotta think they're gonna win. that game.
Tampa with a home game, welcoming in the loser of Detroit versus Minnesota.
shootout.
That's going to be a lot of points at the
Dude.
very least.
I think the Vikings are gonna beat Detroit this week just because the Lions' defense is so
Isn't
messed
the game's
up.
in Detroit though, right?
I thought it was in.
It could
That's a
be-
good
I
question.
could
Let me
be
double
wrong.
check. I'm double checking that right now. That game is at Detroit. Correct.
In Detroit, okay.
I don't know. Look, I could be wrong, and the Lions have continued to prove me wrong. They keep winning with all these injuries anyway. Tip my cap to Dan Campbell and that team, but I don't know. The Vikings are rolling. They have no one healthy. The Vikings going to put up 35 on them. And
I know, but the Lions could put up 40.
Yeah, the Vikings defense has been pretty good, though.
No, that's true. I will say it looks like the Lions could get Alex Anzalone
I did see that.
back
Yep.
this week. He
Hey,
returned to practice. One of
nothing-
their key defenders.
With the Lions, nothing would surprise me. It wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me.
I agree with that. And
They're a good team.
just going back to the caller real quick, one thing I just want to bring up, and I know you know this because you actually sent me the tweet and brought this to my attention. For everyone so worried about the Giants' draft position and that they're going to win themselves out of a position to draft a quarterback, first of all, we don't know how Sunday's going to go yet. So let's see how the game goes before we even start worrying about that. And second of all, even if the Giants do win and drop to 7th, 8th, 9th, whatever in the draft order, as you brought to my attention, Dane Brugler, who is, I think, arguably one of the top draft analysts in the country, very well respected, very reputable.
And doesn't say things to
That
be
he-
outlandish.
Yes,
He's very
he-
conservative in how he speaks about things.
Yes. And he doesn't say things, as you said, just to say them or say things that he doesn't believe in. Just a couple of days ago, he said on Twitter that this year's group of quarterbacks, so let's just call it Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward because they're obviously the top two. On most teams' draft boards, if you combine them with the quarterbacks that were selected in 2024, they would be at best QB7. So behind all 6 quarterbacks that got drafted in the first round. So unless you were banging the table for the Giants to draft J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, or Bo Nix last year.
Now, he did say some teams do have him at 4.
Some teams, yeah, he
But
did say
most
that.
have him at 7.
Most have it
Yes.
at 7. So if you're out there so concerned that the Giants won't be able to get one of those 2 quarterbacks, I hope you were banging the table for Bo Nix or Michael Penix last year, because otherwise it doesn't make too much sense to me then. If you didn't think one of those guys were worth the 6th pick last year, to then say that these 2 quarterbacks are like 100% worth the first pick this year doesn't necessarily line up, in my opinion.
I would probably put, again, I got another half season left to do of both Ward and Sanders. I've probably watched 5 or 6 games of each of those guys at this point. I would probably put Cam Ward around J.J. McCarthy for me, would be my bet, is kind of where I'd have him.
That's above Shedeur Sanders.
And I would put Shedeur around more like the Bo Nix and Michael Penix range.
Yeah, I will say, of those 2 quarterbacks, again, it's January 2nd, and there's still a lot of the pre-draft process to occur, but I definitely lean more towards Cam Ward at this point than Shedeur Sanders, if I had to choose between one or the 2.
I agree.
I still slightly lean towards one of those other blue chip prospects at another position, especially if the Giants are looking at a situation where they'd have to trade up. But even if they weren't, I'm more of the camp of give me the sure thing.
Well, remember, there's no short things in the draft, dude.
You're right. No, that's true. I take that back. As we've learned, there is no such thing as sure things, but the closer thing to a sure thing.
The higher graded player. Why don't you go with that?
Yes, because, again, this is even further down the road, but just as of right now, I think that the 2026 quarterback class in the draft is going to be a lot stronger than the 2025, and I understand that would mean having to sort of punt the position another year.
And you also never know who's coming out next year, how they do in their second. You just don't know.
That's true. That's true. But the 2026 class, at least right now, early, has the makings to be a significantly stronger quarterback class than this year.
Though I'll tell you, Dane has hinted in a couple different spots that if the next 2 games go particularly well, that Drew Aller could change his mind and enter this year's draft.
Don't tell Dan Salamone that. He just not a fan.
Well, he's the Ohio State guy. If anybody had a Penn State helmet on, he would be a fan. Yeah, his kids had a Penn State helmet. He's like,
I actually brought this up to Dan this morning, and he was like, "No, stop it right there. I don't want a Penn State quarterback in this building." He even brought up Christian Hackenberg. I'm like, oh boy, that's the worst comparison you can make.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right, Anthony, New Jersey will wrap us up on the phones today. And
I've been tracking the quarterbacks all year. I got a, like 20 deep, and Alar was to this point right now, he's my top quarterback.
Yeah, some people have him that way, Anthony. You're right about that.
But I'm kind of echoing a lot that's been talked about, which I'm a little bit surprised. It's 3 in a row anti-tank. I honestly don't get it. I mean, we're the New York Giants. Like, you don't root for your team to lose. Like, that's what franchises who are always picking in the top 5 are doing, and it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense. If this was last year's draft, because I understand the needing a quarterback kind of changes everything, right? But if this was last year's draft, it makes a little bit more sense because, all right, then you get your pick, right, of a good QB class. But like I said, I've been tracking the QBs this year. I don't have any of them as first-round prospects. Alar was the one that was at the top, and, all right, he was getting close. Like, there's still a lot of work to be done, and you got to see the combine and stuff and whatnot. But, like, just like you guys were saying before about what Brugler was saying, like, I completely agree with that, And then we're not a QB away anyway. It's not a video game. You don't just, like, plug in a QB and all your problems are solved. And it's also not a video game in the sense that you got real people out there. There's real people underneath these pads. Like, they're not robots. They're not pixels. They're real people. You don't ask real people to lose. And I don't want losers on my team. I want to see guys compete right now. I want to see who I'm going to go with next year. The team's going to change. Obviously, it's crap. It needs to change. But it's not all going to change, right? Malik Neighbors is a guy that you want to bank your future on, right? I want to see him competing. I want to see him trying to score touchdowns, And if you don't want to see that, if you want to see the Giants lose, then shut it off. Shut it off for the next couple of months because you've lost it. And I get it. We've been crap for a while, and the quarterback situation is a desperate one, But it's taking you over the edge. You completely lost touch with what it means to be a Giants fan. And I'm never, ever going to sit there. The Giants are playing and actively root for them to lose. Like, that to me makes zero sense.
No, good stuff, Ant. Appreciate the call. Good perspective. I think from that point of view, I think that was very well said.
Yeah, I agree.
And look, guys, root how you're going to root, fan how you're going to fan. Why not I tell you how to be a fan? You love the team. You love the Giants. Do what you do. That's the beauty of being a fan. You can do this any way you want. That's why it's great. But
at the end of the day, we all just want to see the Giants get better and succeed.
Yes, correct.
Whether it's one way or another, that is the end result that we are all hoping for at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely right. So that's Big Blue Kickoff Live on this Thursday. Tomorrow it will be Citak and Dottino. I guess they'll do somewhat of a game preview type thing. We'll probably just take a lot more of your calls, given what the Eagles will be putting out there on Sunday. But we'll talk about it with you right here on Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. Guys, we do have other podcasts up right now on the Giants Huddle feed. Giants Hangout is up there. Is that the most recent one up there right now on the Giants Huddle feed? Appears it is, right? So Giants Hangout, go check that out. We push draft season until tomorrow, so we could talk about the Sugar Bowl taking place today. So Tony and I are recording at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. As soon as that's done, Pearson will turn that one around. And tomorrow morning we'll have our usual Friday player podcast up as well. I did a little different thing this week. I did 3 of the young guys that are driving, people like Charlie nuts that are still trying to play hard and win football games. So actually, I'm not even sure Charlie is a tank guy. So I shouldn't even put that on Charlie. I apologize for that. But for the fans out there that were a little annoyed last week, Amir Smith-Marset on special teams, Elijah Garcia on the defense, and Jake Kubas on the offense. So I took 3 guys that have kind of stepped into bigger roles the last few weeks and have done a nice job with them. And I have those 3 guys put together, and then we'll have Bob Papa with Brian Dable as well on that Friday podcast.
Did you see the sights and sounds that went up on Giants.com? It was 2 days ago.
Oh, happy Smith-Marset was?
From the game. Just the clip of Smith-Marset after the kickoff return. If there was any sort of thought, which I don't think anyone actually believes that players are not trying to win the games, but if there's any slight inclination that that man was not giving it 110%, go watch that clip and then tell me that that's not someone that is putting his absolute all and couldn't be happier about scoring that kickoff return touchdown. Watching that clip just made me smile, seeing how happy he was.
So that's the schedule coming your way. And again, if you're around in the Jersey area on Sunday, we'll have our pregame show at 11 o'clock at Tommy's Tavern and Tap on Route 3 in Clifton, New Jersey. Come by, say hi to myself, Jonathan Cassis, and Phil Sims will be with us as well as we talk Giants football with you. For Matthew Citak, I'm John Schmeelk. Thanks for being with us on Big Blue Kickoff Live presented by Cadillac. We'll see you tomorrow.